long does it take to research one of your books?
Well, that's hard to say because the research is mostly something that is happening while I'm writing. So there are some cases where I know ahead of time that I'm going to have a lot of research in a particular area, and I will actually start researching before I start writing. But with something like Bobby Dollar, where it's set in the contemporary world, yes, there are many, many things to be researched, and including a lot of things about heaven and hell and people's ideas and the religious writings about them and things. But most of that I was doing as I was writing. So in a given day, if I'm spending 3 hours thinking before I start writing, and 2 or 3 hours actually typing, going clickety, 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 I'm probably going to be spending another hour or so checking things, looking things up, you know, as I go. Because I don't want to try to think too much ahead. I want to be in the scene, in the story, and suddenly it will say, you know, and I fired again, bang, 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 and I'm suddenly wondering, how many bullets can that gun handle? I think he's shot 13 times now, you know, so, or you know, I get to the thing and I'm going, okay, what is my character here is, in this case, you know, he is a werepig, you know, and I will know enough things to start. I know what a pig farm smells like. I have smelled a pig farm. That's why you may have noticed that that was in there so many times about how god-awful it is. But, as I said, off the top of my head, I didn't know, you know, a normal pig, a full-grown pig, is it 400 pounds, 600 pounds, 800 pounds? Didn't know. So it happens as I'm going, and it's hard to pull out the exact thing. But, you know, if it takes me 6 months to write a book, or a year, then I have probably spent a month or 2 months just doing research. Probably, I'm guessing. Yes?
Maybe something not as boring questions, but how do you start your creative process? Have you got a full picture of your stories, or do you invent as you go along?
That's actually not a boring question. That is a huge amount of what I have to work with and how I approach things. Especially because, unlike a lot of other writers, outside of our field, outside of science fiction and fantasy, I write sometimes this may be a surprise to some of you, I write very long books, you know, don't want to shock anybody, but that's, because of that, I have some strange problems that other writers don't always have. And one of them, for instance, and believe me, this is going to come back and answer your question. I'm just, you know, we're rolling now, and you know, once I get started, I don't stop very quickly. When I am writing a multiple book series, and I like to write them not as a series of separate books. They really, for me, are one big story. And they just are divided into different books. So, because of that, I want to treat the first book as the beginning of a big story, which means I want to be able to, we would say, foreshadow, to put in clues and hints and mysteries that will not pay off until later. But these big, big books are too complicated for me to know everything that's going to happen. So I have to know some things. I have to know some things about the ending, even when I'm beginning, so that I can put kind of hints in the first volume. The problem with that, of course, is that things do change, you know, and I am in a very difficult position when that happens, because most writers, if they're writing just a single book like this, and they kill off the wrong character, you know, then at the end of the first draft they say, oh, damn, I killed off the wrong character, and they go back and fix it, okay? But, and this is a story, a remark I often make, I have this peculiar problem that when I am working on the last book, and I need this character to do something, but I killed that character, it's very hard for me to fix that because the first book is already published. So, you know, the only thing I could maybe do is, as I always say, is go door to door with a red pen and ask people for the book back, you know, and say, okay, you see this where it says dead? I'm going to change this to breathing very shallowly. So that is the problem with not knowing enough. But if I try to know too much at the beginning, I am making up things I'm not ready to make up. So it is flat and there's not as much spontaneity in the book. I don't have new ideas coming into the story. Because the very long books sometimes take 2 years to write, and a whole trilogy, as I call mine, which is actually tetralogy, because I always write 4, but my trilogy, sometimes maybe takes 5 or 6 years to write. And during that time, many things happen. I have many experiences. People grow old and die, while I am writing a book. My own children grow up and move out of the house and have children of their own. Life changes, and I want to bring these experiences to the books. So, back to your original question. See, I remember. Back to the original question, I find it is like what I would call in English it's called a high wire act, where they have the wire up high in the air and the person has to walk on it and they hold a pole to balance themselves. But I have to balance myself between knowing too much and knowing too little. And that's a constant thing. There is no formula. I have to figure it out as I go. I know what I can and I leave the unknown unknown. And when I know something has to happen here that will be revealed later on, but I don't know what that is and what it means, I will put it in the book in such a way that the reader can tell it's important. And the reader will assume that I must know what's going to happen. But in fact, I have no clue, no idea. But I do it in such a way that it looks like, oh, he's setting that up. Oh, this is going to be good. And meanwhile, I'm going, Jesus, I hope I can come up with something. So it's always a balancing act. And when I'm starting a book, I'm trying to have enough to do the things that I know I will need, but not to try and think everything out at the beginning. So
here's the compliment to achieve it.
Thank you very much.
Not so many authors can hint something out before getting to the end.
Well, it is a dynamic process. It's part of doing what I do, is you find what you're good at, and I think that's one of the things I'm good at, is balancing those two things, which is why I will keep going back to write long series and things like that. But does that answer? Is that good? Okay, very good. Thanks. That was a good question.
Just an accompanying question to that one.